Welcome to The Vinyl Guide, the podcast for record collectors and music nerds. Here's your host, the biggest record nerd of them all, Nate Goyer.
Well, hey everyone, it's Nate. Happy Record Store Day week. Welcome to episode 545 of The Vinyl Guide, the podcast for record collectors and music nerds. And dear people, this week we are joined once again by the jazz detective himself, Mr. Zev Feldman. And we talk about all 11 of his Record Store Day 2026 releases, including some stunning discoveries from the legendary Joe Siegel Jazz Showcase tape archive. These are thousands of recordings never heard before, the likes of Ahmad Jamal, Yusef Lateef, Mal Waldron, Sonny Stitt. I mean, it's an absolutely amazing archive. They sound brilliant, and a handful of these recordings will be available on Record Store Day 2026. We're going to talk about them. Zev's going to go through all the RSD releases one by one, give us more background of each. And of course, this will be super helpful to anyone considering grabbing one or more of these releases on Record Store Day. God bless you, Zev Feldman, and your continuing efforts to preserve jazz history and, of course, make those available to the greater public. Thank you so much, mate. And to the rest of you, got a message. If you like this podcast, well, you could help show your love and supply me with beer and burritos at patreon.com/vinylguide. I do not take sponsor money, only listener money. I'm funded kind of like PBS, but instead of a tote bag, I give you episodes in high resolution. Sometimes I share extended interviews, and sometimes we do other fun stuff on patreon.com/vinylguide. Plus, here's something I don't think you know. I made a deal with St. Peter. Anyone who helps support the Vinyl Guide podcast immediately gets a pass that lets you into heaven, no matter what you've done. With the exception, of course, of anyone who went to Epstein's Island. Those people will burn no matter what. But look, if we're talking petty crime, larceny, or just being criminally handsome, well, look, you are safe as long as you sponsor us at patreon.com/vinylguide. And oh yeah, those of you sponsoring at $20 per month or more also get to meet Jimi Hendrix in heaven. All right, everyone, it's Record Store Day week, so I'm going to get out of your way. Let's talk to Zev Feldman, the jazz detective himself.
Hey, man.
Hey, Mr. Zev Feldman, look at you.
Hey, Goyer, how you doing, dude?
I'm doing great. Mr. Jazz Detective. You know what, Zev? I'm promoting you. You are now Jazz Attorney General. All right?
Oh, yeah. Found an opening for me, huh?
Well, there seems to be no rules how many levels you could jump in one go, so why not?
I'm just happy to be in the room, man.
Oh, man, these are some amazing rooms that you're bringing us into. So, hey, let's talk Record Store Day, man. 11 releases this year.
Yeah.
Double digits.
Yes, sir. I topped myself this year. It's pretty incredible. It's just a number, but man, it's a whole lot of love and some really exciting projects to talk about. It just kind of works out this way sometimes. I'm just so grateful for all the support I've been getting and folks that have confidence in me to work on these projects. So man, it's like a dream come true, man. I'm telling you, I love what I do. I just really have the time. My days blow by so quickly, and it's exciting.
Isn't that a great feeling? I mean, you just, you jump out of bed every day. You just want to do things. You stay up late. You just want to get stuff done because you're excited. Yeah?
Entirely, yeah.
Yeah, phenomenal. So, look, there's a lot of potential starting places. But I think where I want to start off first is this Joe Siegel tape archive. Because that's the tributary that has watered so many rivers on this Record Store Day. Let's talk a little bit about Joe Siegel and his background.
Joe Siegel was one of this country's greatest jazz impresarios. This is a guy who loved jazz music more than anything, and he gave his life. He was recognized as an NEA jazz master, and and he was presenting concerts in Chicago all around the city going back to 1947. The Pershing Ballroom, the Plug Nickel, just countless places around Chicago, and his relationships that he forged with incredible famous musicians like Lester Young, who he presented, and he was just somebody that celebrated the art. He eventually would call his own home the Jazz Showcase, and they were on various locations over the years. Um, but this man's universe collided with my universe back around 2010, 2011, Nate, because at Resonance Records, we had put out Bill Evans Live at Top of the Gate and West Montgomery Echoes of Indiana Avenue. And those two releases they gave my boss, George Claiborne, the confidence for us to keep pushing on. And before I know it, I'm asking people, hey, do you know of any tapes? And this name kept on coming up. This man in Chicago, Joe Siegel. Zev, you got to reach out to Joe Siegel. He's got a pretty infamous tape archives. And anyways, so I met the man in Chicago for breakfast. I think I was in town maybe to see family. All of my family is from Milwaukee and Chicago originally. But anyways, I was in Chicago. I met with him. We met for breakfast at some cafe, and he has a CD with him. And he says, "Hey, do you want to hear some Stan Getz?" And I said, "Oh, really?" And he gave me a CD, and I said, do you have any other music?" And then he says to me, "Oh, there's other music." And very kind of nonchalant, but so serious. And I made 3 trips back to Chicago in the next year and a half. And I started going through his archives, these crates of boxes of tapes, of cassettes, of reel-to-reels, of 10-inch, 7-inch reels. I'm going to say something here. This man documented going back to the 50s. It's possibly the world's largest tape archives of previously unissued material. There was tape being run all the time at the club, capturing these moments. And now, all these years later, we're able to get into this time machine. Mind you, I got to get permissions and we have to secure all sorts of intellectual property rights and such that come along with this. But we know what we're doing. And we forge this relationship, and it's been extraordinary now. And this Record Store Day, April 18th, 2026, really represents a mission that we've been on, and then fruits of these labor, if you will, of these 5 releases that come from this archive. But I'm glad I knew this guy. But Joe Siegel, one of the greatest in Chicago. I can't stress it enough. You can read about him online. He also produced records for the Chess family on Argo and Cadet, I believe, too. There's a Ward L. Gray. There's a Leo Parker folks might be familiar with. This man left his mark and left us a lot of great music to listen to.
So this tape archive, and this is really exciting, this tape archive is, I'm not even going to say hundreds, it's thousands of performances. Yeah?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
We were trying to assign a number. We thought maybe between 8,000 and 10,000 tapes.
Oh, geez. Oh, man. Oh, all right. Well, there's a few Record Store Days sorted out in the future there.
Well, we're going to focus on it at the Resonance label. We're really harnessing this as a great opportunity of collaborating with Joe Siegel's family, with his son Wayne, who runs the Jazz Showcase to this day, continuing to carry the torch for his dad's legacy for jazz in Chicago, and also with the Katz family, Stu Katz, who was a very near and dear friend to Joe Siegel too. But it's an amazing mission. Anyways,
so you get this archive, you get access to this archive, thousands of recordings, clearly.
Yes. Yeah.
Where do you start? Like, what's the beachhead that you attack first?
It's really about what I vibe with, so it's interesting. So I can tell you from experience what it was like going through crates and crates of tapes going through almost on impulse. I don't know. At this time, I feel like I have this barometer built in from my years in distribution and sales, combined also with the fan and me. And when I speak for all the other folks that buy vinyl and buy these releases that celebrate it, how rare is a recording the artist? And it was just extraordinary to be able to go back into the time machine and just see music over the last decades and decades. But it's personal. It's also, I have to wear that hat and walk a fine line of, hey, is there going to be an audience out there that's going to come along and support us? And but it's been about a lot of these sort of things. But it's been an extraordinary thing, to the point, Nate, where I am not listening to used vinyl as much as I was. I've been devoting my whole life, it seems like, for the last 2 years on getting tapes transferred, listening to those transfers, and then putting it in motion with a team of people. And it's a process, but it's even more exciting because the world's never heard what I've been listening to. And it's something to live for. I mean, my God, I don't know what to say. I'm just like, really, it's super exciting. It's beyond words.
You know what is really interesting, fascinating to me about the Joe Siegel story is he's not a musician necessarily. He's doing this as a fan, and
Yes.
and anyone listening to this podcast, you don't need to have the sort of musical chops. He organized gigs, and then he rolled tape, and because of that, he's developed this legacy, this archive that generations after him can enjoy. To me, that's really inspiring, because I don't know about you, Zev. I have very little musical talent, but I can organize. I can do things like that, and if I could do it, most anyone can. Yeah.
It's about the love, though, first. And you know what? I think it's because I really love this music. It's not work. It's time management. It's organization. It's all these other things that go into it. So when I'm, it's 2 a.m. and I'm listening to material that's never been out before, having my mind blown, that's a part of it. But we also have to be the gatekeepers. We have to really do things very judiciously, looking out for the best interest of the artist, making sure that we only present them in the best light. But what Joe did is just extraordinary. I'm so sad that he can't be here to witness this, because it's absolutely extraordinary. I think it's really what his dream was to see this music one day finding a way of coming out. And I'm really proud. I knew him. He was a very serious man. It wasn't all flowery and everything. I was there for a reason, but we did spend some time, and I really enjoyed getting to know him a little bit, and him sharing his experiences and what Chicago was like, and these musicians and these people that he knew, like, guys like Sonny Stitt and Gene Ammons and Yusef Lateef and Ahmad Jamal. These guys were his friends. Not like they were friends. Joe Henderson and the great Johnny Griffin and Joe Siegel shared a birthday, so they would get together on numerous years to play together and hang out and celebrate this. There's a lot of relationships, but it's legacy, and it's apparent because going through this archive, you have artists that would play like Yusef Lateef 3 times a year, maybe because he was also in Detroit, I think, for a part of that time, closer proximity. But it's just extraordinary. And I want to say that, like, we're really committed at Resonance to working with the Siegel family to find, and the artist of these musicians. First and foremost, it's the musicians and their performances is why we're here. So, we're continuing this mission, but there's a lot to be excited about, because I think we're going to knock people's socks off with the releases that are going to be coming. Folks that, have been gone from this earth for a long time, yet their performances are living on, and I think it's going to make a lot of people happy.
The one thing that I recognize from these recordings, I heard, listening to something like Ahmad Jamal, Yusef Lateef, there's a lot of subtleties. These recordings are actually quite good quality. It wasn't just someone in the back of a club rolling a tape. he had a lot of forethought in this. Can you talk a little bit about his technique, because he really captured a lot of these performances beautifully.
I wish that I could articulate that into some great way, but I'll tell you, even, look, for me, and I'm not a musician either, and that's why I work with musicians, by the way, too. We have people on our team. We have to build the team of the folks. Oh my gosh, tell me you're sorry. You said to me, can you repeat that one more time to me, Nate?
I'd be interested in understanding the way he recorded it, because he wasn't just some guy in the back of a club with one mic. There seemed to be more technique than that.
Well, and I can't really speak to it in great detail, but the recordings sound good. Some sound we stuck with. Listen, fidelity is very important for all of us, and we really try to factor that into, we do mastering and stuff. I don't know what his process was. I never saw this gentleman run a board, but I know that we have music that sounds great. We've also been able to further in the mastering process, working with Joe Lizzie, working with George Claben, who is an incredible recording engineer in his own right. I mean, George worked on records for Prestige Records in the 60s. My boss, George Claben. And also Matt Luthens, who mastered these for vinyl, too. We've got the right team together, but they sound good, and that's important. But man, the performances are just and there's a variety of places we could talk. So anyways,
I just got my my nice turntable back from the shop, and that's the problem about having like a really nice system. Is you going in and out of the shop, there's always fiddly bits to deal with, and I got it back just in time for a couple of these records. Also, the vinyl pressing is very quiet. You got them printed up in Canada, is that right?
We do. Resonance has been working for a number of years now with Le Vinylist up in Quebec. Actually, our good friend Andre Perry at 2X HD Audio was the one that originally introduced us to them, because he's an audiophile and we really trust him. And I'll tell you, they say 180 gram pressings, but sometimes they could even be upwards of 200. They do an amazing job. Very quiet, like you were saying. We've been working with them, I don't know, 6-7 years now, maybe longer, but it's going really well. And Matt Luthens at the Mastering Lab in Salina, Kansas has been just done a terrific job as well with his mastering technique for vinyl. It's just been really great working with him, and I work with him. All 11 releases for Record Store Day were done by Matt Luthens at the Mastering Lab. I want to give him a shout out because he's great and we like working with him.
Oh, yeah. That whole operation, Salina, Kansas, is just fantastic. So, all right, let's crack into it. Let's spend a couple minutes on each release, if that's all right.
I would love that.
So let's start with the Residents releases. Joe Henderson, Consonants, live at the Jazz Showcase. What year was that one?
This is from 1978. This is a very special quartet with the great Joanne Brackeen on piano, Steve Rodby on bass, who folks will probably be familiar with because of his affiliation with Pat Metheny. He was the house bassist, one of the house bassists at the showcase. And also Danny Spencer on drums. Danny Spencer actually played with the Kenny Cox Ensemble, and that's interesting because Joe Henderson's brother, Leon Henderson, played in that group. So this was a very special quartet. It's full of fire. There's so much energy. I co-produced this release with my dear friend, John Koenig, who is also our general counsel and a concert cellist. And he ran Contemporary Records and produced Relax in the Camarillo from Joe Henderson, and worked with Joe. And we were, again, kindred spirits in the Joe Henderson department because we just absolutely love Joe. He is really such an inspiration to us and so many of us in this music. So those are really wonderful recordings and some very long, pronounced solos, and just there's a lot of energy. And it's some magic stuff. Joanne Brackeen said to me, Nate, that, this was the way we played. We never were recorded, but this is how we played. And she also acknowledged that, Joe Siegel, not everybody booked music like this back then, but Joe Siegel did, and he took a lot of chances in this music and was really supportive to this group in particular.
Yeah, this package is one of the three LPs. You got some two LPs, three LPs. Oh, there's a couple single LPs as well. When you get these sort of tapes, like you got from the archive, how do you go about sequencing them to be able to fit on vinyl? Because obviously there's some logistical limitations, that sort of thing. What's your approach?
Well, the approach is really have to listen to the music and have the best of the best. And we were lucky. We had several days worth of performances to go through. In some instances, multiple takes to choose from. It would be no different if you were going to do a live album at the Vanguard. You've got your sound truck or whatever, and you record the whole week and you choose. Well, man, that's why this archives is so special, because it's almost like it's created and it's in a way, in a form that allows us to put these releases together. So we were really about trying to recapture the feel of what it was like. And, there's a flow and an energy with a release out of the gate and the way that it's programmed. But when we typically do this, we're looking at 25, even I'll sometimes go 27-minute sides. I'm not bashful. This wasn't going to be a 45 RPM or something that the number of cycles was going to affect. This sounds great on vinyl. It really does. But we were trying to program for probably 25, 27-minute sides, but there was so much great music. And all you really need to do is listen. But look, the energy is there. Joe Henderson is a titan. He matters so much, and he's missed. I was so lucky. I had a chance to befriend Joe's son, Malcolm McDaniel. We worked together on this album on Blue Note Records called Forces of Nature, which was Joe and McCoy Tyner with Henry Grimes and Jack DeJohnette. We did that a couple of years ago. And it just reminds me of how much Joe Henderson is loved by the fans, and he really matters. And just listen to him take his turn, take his solo. He's just so inspiring. Literally, your jaw will be on the floor.
Oh, it sounds phenomenal. It really does. Okay, again, we're getting through all these 11 releases. I promise you, Zev. Ahmad Jamal. Now, this is at the Jazz Showcase. This is some 20 years or so after, live at the Pershing. Same city, different decade. Tell me the story about this particular set of shows.
Well, this is terrific. This is from a week of shows in 1976 with Ahmed, along with bassist John Hurd and his longtime drummer. I mean, I knew of them at least playing together in 68, the great Frank Gant. He's on the awakening. I mean, if you want to talk about Ahmad and his greatness, this is a terrific period of Ahmad Jamal's music. And I think the Crate Diggers really love this period as well. And for those folks who are in the know, I should tell you, since I'm sure you really dig Swahili Land from Ahmad, a lot of some of the core Ravenous fans like myself do, there's a 26-minute version on a whole side of Swahili Land, start to finish. But look, Ahmad Jamal was living in New York City, but as my co-producer on this release, Joe Alterman, said, it must have been like a hometown reunion of sorts coming back in. But Ahmad Jamal and Joe Siegel had a long-standing friendship. And I can tell you again, because he was at the club a lot. We have also posters and ephemera and all sorts of awesome stuff that we've gathered too. It's wonderful to have the music. We have some incredible editorial photographs. And then you have these posters. And we've got some photographs of the interior of the club. I mean, I really want to transport people back. It's super exciting. And none of this music has ever been available before. No one's ever heard it. We only chose what we thought was to be the best. On this release, one of the reasons why I really wanted Joe Alterman to be at my side was because Joe is a protege of Ahmad Jamal, and they were very close friends. And he had a good insight into Mr. Jamal's methodology. And anyways, we have this really strong 2 LP set. People love him, man. He matters, and it's new music that's never been out before.
Oh, it's just so gorgeous. The piano is just so dynamic. Now, you brought up a really interesting point. All the ephemera that goes along with this. Now, along with the archive, was there also photos and materials, that sort of thing with it?
There were calendars and schedules and flyers and posters. We found some photographs. We've also been working locally with certain photographers as well. I'm really trying to put some of this back, trying to frame everything. But they did. And, I went out, I was in Chicago a little bit, or just around Christmas Eve, and I had a chance to go through the boxes. Wayne Siegel was like, Zev, you got to look through it all if you came here. So there were all these like giant tubs, and there would be letters in there between Yusef and Joe Siegel. Hey, Joe, you need to take an extra $1 per disc. You're not taking enough. I read this one passage. Here was letters of Art Blakey and other folks and a lot of management and stuff, but they held on to a lot of it. Not everything I'm going to publish or anything like that, but it was really insightful getting a glimpse into this man that saved all this stuff too. I mean, I got to see the receipts of what Dexter Gordon was bringing in at the door or whatever it was. There was like all sorts of incredible artifacts that were there. But this man led quite a life, and it's just so, the optic lens, getting a chance to look into things through his eyes, and Wayne ran that club with him. It was a father and son operation. The fact that Wayne is allowing this to happen, and that when you go to the club and you see Wayne there, I mean, he's carrying the tradition for his dad. It's really a very beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Really is.
So someone like Ahmad Jamal or Yusef Lateef runs a week of shows in the 70s in Chicago. Now you're looking to release these tapes, photographs from the archives. I would imagine, maybe I'm wrong here, that there's probably only a few dozen photographs of those sort of weeks. How difficult is it to find visuals and things to accompany these recordings?
Pictures that are taking in Chicago, it's been a little bit difficult for us, but we have found things. There were certain photographers, guys that were coming in and out of the doors, but that wasn't always the regular. It was really about the music first. But thankfully, look, at Resonance, at Elemental, we work, my own label, everybody, we work with a lot of great photo archives out there. There are these representatives and these services, and also very strong, prolific work. The photographers are the ones that really help us elevate these releases through their art too, and then, I'm not embarrassed to say it. I take the album design, the presentation, the curation of these packages really serious. I know what goes into them when people line up and spend their hard-earned money. And I know from my perspective, but I want to knock people's socks off. We've been working again. These releases were all, Burton Yount did the Joe Henderson. But Ahmad Jamal, Mal Waldron, and Yusef Lateef were done by the great John Sellards. He also did the Terry Collier. But, I love the photographs. I love the ephemera. I want to really just kind of connect the dots. And, when you see these things and when you listen to the records and you're reading the liner notes, I think that's kind of like the full experience.
Oh, yeah. They're beautiful. The package is part of the record. There's no kind of separating them. The music obviously is so important, but that's not always the whole experience. And especially with these, the way you do the Stoughton kind of tip-ons, the beautiful arrangements and those liner notes, the booklets. I've told you this before.
I appreciate it, man. That's so nice of you.
So Yusef Lateef with Kenny Barron. Tell me a little bit about this set.
Oh, man, this is burning. So this is like one of the great working bands in jazz in the 1970s. You're talking about Yusef Lateef with Kenny Barron on piano, Bob Cunningham on bass, and Albert Tootie Heath on drums. These guys play the inside, they play the outside. There's echoes of all sorts of incredible world music influence. Yusef Lateef embodied all this. It's been so exciting over the last few years. I got to work on these two other Elemental releases with Yusef Lateef and his estate. And I want to thank Aisha Lateef, who's been so supportive. But it's been awesome because Yusef Lateef is a record store day artist, and I've been at these stores and seeing people line up and buying them. They bought the Golden Flower release that I did recently, and I just, man, it just touches me. I'm love to see waving the flag for him. But look, this was an incredible week of shows done in 75. Great performances, not just good, but great. And you can just feel the energy in the room, and you feel the energy of the audience. And there's something that's really captured there. He played at the club more than any other artist, Yusef Lateef. He and Joe Siegel were really tight. But I'm proud. I mean, this is a big musical offering. It's a 3 LP set. It's a lot of great music. Herb Boyd, who is the biographer and was friends with Dr. Lateef, wrote the main liners. And it's just a terrific release. Also, again, mastered by Mount Luthans, and Michael Velasco is my co-producer on this, and his ears bled listening to these takes over and over and having them. We were A-Bing them, and he would really be right in there, and he fought really hard to make a great project out of this, and I'm really proud about this one. I think people are going to really love it, man. All you got to do is listen. But man, it represents what Yusef Lateef was doing on stage in this period. Just amazing.
A lot of world music explorations, I think, at this point. Phenomenal package. The next one I wanted to bring up, very interesting. I think this is one of the sleeper ones for RSD, is the Mal Waldron. It's pairing him with Sonny Stitt, which I thought was particularly interesting. Can you talk to that?
Yeah, I want to actually give you a little glimpse behind the curtain of what was going on in this week of shows in August of 79. So every year, Joe Siegel, because he loved Charlie Parker, he loved bebop jazz, would do a Charlie Parker festival every month for the month of August. So he did something quite remarkable in 1979. For folks out there that follow Mal Waldron, there was trio and solo concerts and performances. But somehow, because Joe Siegel was one of these guys that could pick up the phone and call his chums, I can only imagine what it was like. He brings in Mal Waldron with Steve Rodby, Wilbur Campbell on drums, but then he gets Sonny Stitt and Red Holloway. And it was actually like a bebop week. Now, the recordings that we have on our release really speak to the genius, and there's a lot of original compositions, Left Alone, Firewalls, these sort of originals that folks are familiar with and you love in that period. But he's also playing bebop during this week, and we have a couple of performances with the great Sonny Stitt. And to hear them in 1979 was an unusual pairing, a reunited, a bit of old friends. I mean, they were together. They were there in the Prestige era for Bob Weinstock, and they are from a whole other era. But it is really a fascinating release. And I got to hear some other parts of that week of shows that we didn't use. But I'll tell you, though, it's definitely fascinating. I think he's so interesting. He has his own language, the way that he comps, his whole story. I just wish I would have had a chance to meet him and see him live in concert. But I love Mal Waldron. So that one resonated with you too?
It did. Pardon the pun. I think that's going to be one of the sleeper hits. At the end of after Record Store Day, the dust settles, and then some of these records kind of get their holy shit moments. People are like, oh, you know what? How did I miss that? And then they try to find it, and then the only place you can get it is Discogs for $108. I think this is going to be one of those.
I want to say the RSD Marketplace, check it out. I want to say don't jump to conclusions that something is gone. I can tell you already, because I know it's in our warehouse, there are a couple of releases that we have extra. That's not what this is about. Mm-hmm. But you know what? search down those records, go to the RSD marketplace. You can get it without being gouged, and the shops are selling it themselves too. This all is about record retail and brick and mortar stores, and the spirit of what's going on here is amazing. Hey, by the way, I'm not always a number person, but somebody told me you need to start tabulating. And this is marks my 96 RSD release to this batch, which is kind of interesting. What's in a number? It's all about the love. But anyways, this
Okay.
coffee is good that I'm drinking over here. I've been drinking a dark roast. It's very good, very strong.
So
I apologize.
no worries. So you're gonna be celebrating triple digits at the end of the year. You're gonna be excellent. Ooh, I'm interested to know now the pressure's on. What's gonna be issue number 100?
Oh my gosh. Oh, we're gonna have to follow up on that.
Welcome to my world when I get to podcast 400 or 600 or whatever. It's like, oh shit, the pressure's on. Who am I going to pull out for this one? All right, moving on. Elemental music. It wouldn't be a record store day without Zev sharing some sort of Bill Evans recordings.
Yeah, it's true. So we have Bill Evans at the BBC this year. This aired two performances from the Jazz 625 BBC television program that was hosted by British jazz trumpeter Humphrey Lyttelton, or Humphrey Lyttelton, whoever you say it. I've heard it both ways. All I know is I became familiar with these performances back in the mid 1990s because I actually had them on a Japanese Laserdisc that I bought at Tower Records in Lincoln Center when I was knee high to a grasshopper. No, but seriously. And you know what? This is a great period of Bill Evans's music with Chuck Israels on bass and Larry Bunker on drums. And Chuck is still with us. But look, Elemental, we've started working with the BBC, and there was an opportunity here. Hey, why don't we put this out officially? And look, Bill Evans is an artist who keeps giving. He is a force. He transcends generations and audiences. And I will say that Record Store Day really has created something here because they have there is a cross-pollination that has occurred now over a number of years where people are discovering his music and people are happy. And I'm very proud of this release. Mark Myers returns to the liner notes chair. We have an interview with Mr. Israels, and we also spoke with James Pearson, who is the house pianist at Ronnie Scott in London, and a gentleman that some folks, quite many, will be familiar with, Mr. Jamie Cullum, British jazz pianist, great, and artist, pop artist, who also is a BBC host himself, and actually, I believe, had the same slot that Humphrey Lyttelton did. We had a wonderful conversation for the package, but Bill Evans at the BBC is great. It's crazy. This is number 15. I keep talking about numbers. Stop me. I'm sorry, but I'm really proud. And we've been working with Evan Evans, who's been so supportive and allows these projects to happen. And he's been really encouraging. And it's just, man, Bill Evans is a major inspiration. Just listen, tell your friends.
Yeah, we're so fortunate. Bill Evans, his genius was recognized within his life. And there were people who provided and systems that allowed him to record in ways that really captured the quality and the subtlety. And so, yeah, we're still enjoying those recordings again. Thanks for bringing them to us. I'm going to go. This is my favorite. I'm going to talk about my favorite release of yours this period, Freddie King.
Oh man.
It is so great. It's look, I've been going through these streams and some of the records you guys were good enough to send me to check out, and Freddie King is the one that I've now had on 3 times. That is incredible. Talk about that one.
Oh man, well, first of all, what a pleasure. Freddie King, one of the great blues guitarists of all time.
The great man. Yeah.
I mean, do you think Stevie Ray Vaughan, how do you think he would have sounded had he never discovered Freddie King, another fellow Texan? But listen, Freddie King is one of the greats. Jordi Soleil, my co-founder at Elemental Music, is an enormous fan. This is a very personal one for him. And we've been working with the good folks at INA in Paris. This is the National Archives that holds the Radio France and the ORTF archives. And those folks, man, it's an amazing Fort Knox of French music. I mean, artists that came into France that were captured for radio, for television. We've been working with them for about 15 years. Releases from Cannonball Adderley and Wes Montgomery, Larry Young, Mal Waldron. And they've been so good to us because they know that we clear the rights respectfully with the musicians and pay publishing and do all the right things. Because I can't say, unfortunately, that's always the case, but I'm going to keep things clean today. Listen, but these recordings were engineered by a very important man in French radio history. His name was André Francis. If you've ever listened to Miles Davis live in Europe, there is that introduction to the band. This is the Miles record with the white, red, and blue cover. It's primarily white. Miles is playing the trumpet. And André he's the announcer, but he was really a prolific radio producer. I had the good fortune of meeting him in person on a couple of occasions. You could also read about it in Larry Young in Paris. But this is a really prestigious relationship. And thanks to the folks at INA, and thank you, Wanda King, for believing in us, we were able to put together this great package with, man, one of my favorite liner notes in a long time. I love them all, but I got to give a special shout out to Cary Baker, author, blues scribe, and former publicist in Another Life. He's a really amazing guy, and he wrote the liners and just did an absolutely amazing job on this release. And I also want to give a very special thanks to the great Billy Gibbons of the Moving Sidewalks and ZZ Top. I mentioned Moving Sidewalks because I had to be cute because I love them. And I love Billy Gibbons, and it was really wonderful for him to participate. But there's a lot of love, and you got to read this incredible interview we had with Wanda King talking about her father and being the daughter of a famous blues great. And she's a serious lady, man. She works in the business herself and has her own path, and she's been very supportive. You know, these projects are relationships with musicians and families and deal making and curation. It's a whole big tornado of stuff that goes into making all this stuff as great as it comes out in the end. And like, here we are. It's like unveiling day. I get to be here and talk about this. But man, there's a lot of peaks and valleys, Nate, that goes into this, and lots of stops and goes, and it's not for the faint of heart.
Well, I tell you, Freddie King is one of these musicians I could listen to all day long. Similar to like Hendrix, I could put him on, and my ears never tire of it. And Freddie, his phrasing, his musicianship is top notch. I get goosebumps saying the name. The music doesn't even have to be playing, just knowing the titan he is. So this is an incredible one. So again, I'm letting people know, grab the copy of Freddie King Feeling All Right, because this is a top release. I won't belittle the others, but this one is the one that resonated with me, to use your word. All right, Cecil Taylor Unit, Fragments.
Yes.
This is also a French series of shows, is that right?
This came from Ina, in 1969, Cecil Taylor and his unit with Sam Rivers on tenor saxophone and flute, Jimmy Lyons on alto, and the great Andrew Surreal, who is still with us. They played at the Soleil Palau in Paris, and for the first time, we present officially all of these recordings complete. And this is a co-production with Cecil Taylor's biographer, Phil Freeman, who also contributes for Burning Ambulance, which a lot of folks know about too. And if you're going to do a Cecil Taylor project, I wanted to work with Phil Freeman, and I'm absolutely honored. But again, here's just like the Freddie King. It's the same archives. These come from the ORTF. It's just hauntingly beautiful music. These guys are explorers and these painters. You know what? You can read the liner notes to get more of a sense and a greater depth. It's lost. I can't really give it justice, but it's really exciting music. And it was a thrill working on this project. And also I wanted to, thank Sam Rivers' daughter, Monique Rivers, and also Karen Borka, who was the partner of Jimmy Lyons, and also Andrew Surreal, who gave us a really at-length interview. The editorial is off the charts. And then we found previously unpublished photographs from this run, this time shows, but also around Paris too, which are just remarkable. Check them out. And Burton Yount, one of our designers, who I just absolutely love. We've been friends for so many years, literally about 17, 18 years we've been working together. He really just hit it out. He has a very modern eye. There's certain things about Burton. He is the one that created the main typography that we use for all these Bill Evans records too. And he's just a really uber talented guy, if I may say so. So, anyways, if you like Cecil Taylor, and even if you're not, let's say you've been wanting to explore, you got to try these. You got to try these on. You got to really listen to this music, and I think that you'll get chills. I just think it's super exciting. And anyways, I'm just thrilled to talk about
it. Thrilled to have it. All right, rounding out that lot, Michelle Petrucciani. Am I pronouncing that right? That's a European only RSD release.
Yep, it's going to be an RSD release, but it'll be released outside of that domestically in North America and throughout the world. So Michelle Petrucciani, Kumbwa. Petrucciani, first of all, I'm just a really enormous fan. I've been listening to his records for a long time. He made albums on Blue Note. A lot of folks know about the Dreyfus recordings too. I also really love the albums that he did for Owl Records. And I think back to a trip in Japan that I made probably around 2011. And I was at a place called the Adirondack Cafe in Tokyo, which besides being a jazz kisa is a hamburger bar too. They make some good food in there. Anyways, I'm sitting there at the bar with my associates, and in comes a businessman off the street with his tie on. He had his name around the bottle of booze behind the bar. It was some bottle of Suntory whiskey. A lot of irregulars that come in, they have their own bottles of booze. It's just a ritual, a tradition there. So anyways, he had a bag from Disc Union, and out comes the CD from Owl Records. And he gave it to the owner, and we all sat and listened to it. And I remember having like this, oh my moment, like, man, was he just incredible. If you like Bud Powell and you like jazz piano, I mean, Bud Powell and Bill Evans alone, you should be checking out just to hear what else is there. This is a band on steroids. It's really important for a few reasons, mostly that this was a short-lived group. I think they only did a couple of concerts together. This was not a normal working band. And about 20 years ago, I had the pleasure of working at Concord Music Group. And I was there when Tim Jackson of the Monterey Jazz Festival, he was the former artistic director. He, along with Jason Olaine, they launched a record label, Monterey Jazz Festival Records. And we all got to know each other. And I had left Concord. I was working at Resonance, and we started going deeper and deeper into looking for tapes. And I reached out to Tim, and he shared with me some information about Monterey, but he said, I got some tapes over here you might want to check out on this list from the Kumbwa Jazz Center, which is a public theater and organization in Santa Cruz, California, a wonderful nonprofit that he co-founded. They had these recordings. And about a year and a half ago, my co-founder at Elemental, Jordi Soleil, said, Zev, we'd really like to develop a series of recordings from Michelle Petrucciani because he's just amazing, man. Do you know of anything special out there? And a light bulb goes off above my head. And I think back to that list of tapes from Tim. And I talked to Tim, and I was very forthright. Look, this is due diligence. Do you mind? Can we listen to the music? And we incubated this process thanks to Alexander Petrucciani, who is Michelle's son, who runs the estate. And anyways, it was all meant to be. But man, these recordings are powerful. They really have a lot of Michelle's original compositions, but also some standards. You love hearing Bill Evans do Nardis and some of your other favorites. Listen to Michelle Petrucciani do Nardis. And it's just really wonderful. But he died young, and I just think it's a nice thing that we're waving the flag for him. We're talking about him, and I hope that this will rise the tide because he was an amazing artist. And he was also a very sociable guy, very full of life. People that knew him would talk about just he was really a joyful, kind of really pleasant person. And anyways, I just really am proud, I'm proud to be a part of this. So it's really exciting. I want to thank Jordy and Carlos for inviting me along and allowing me to bring this tape to light. Oh my God, blah, blah, blah. Sorry. I keep talking too much.
That's what I booked you for, Zev. Look, will this be available? Will the Michelle Petrucciani? It'll be available for streaming as well. It'll be available to U.S.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely. This music is going to be available all throughout the world on vinyl, and the following week we put everything out on CD as well. Okay. So look for everything except for Buster Williams, but that's another story.
Okay, all right. We're rounding out the collection, and I was so glad to see this artist in your list, Terry Callier. I've been exploring Terry a little bit more recently. I just got a copy of Eternity to Love, Occasional Rain as well. So, but this is from Terry's earlier period, which I'm not as familiar with. What can you tell us about this?
Yes, these are solo guitar recordings that he made at the Earl of Old Town. And there's that gentleman again, Joe Siegel. I'm going to bring up his name. Joe is a really interesting guy. And, but he was at the Earl of Old Town, was this club, and made these recordings of Terry Callier in 1967. This was a venue that was not a jazz club, by the way. It was more of a folk coffee house. I get the kind of vibe from people. And he made these recordings made from 1967, which are just a few years recorded after the folk singer recordings on Prestige would come out. This is a very important artist, and I want to tip my hat to my co-producer on this, James Batsford, who is giving me so much grief. Like, Zev, we must put this out. And I worked with Terry Callier. I have a Terry Callier story. Around 1999, I was a salesman for Universal Music and Video Distribution. And he had an album, was it Lifetime, I want to say? He had a couple of albums on Verve Forecast. Man, he came to town and we did a solo performance at the Tower Record Store in Washington, D.C. in Georgetown, Foggy Bottom area. And I got to hang out with him for a little bit. And I was just really touched about what a gentle, kind, nice man he was. But musically, he really matters. He makes people happy. If you go across the pond to the UK, they'll probably tell you that they've been onto him a little bit longer and probably be proud about that. Massive Attack and Paul Weller have claimed him as their own too and championed him and shown a lot of love. And he's somewhat of I wouldn't say a lesser known artist, but he's someone that matters to a group of people. And he's someone who is an important artist. And I love the fact that Joe Siegel recognized that. And he would later make records for Cadet with the Chess Factor family. And I know that Joe Siegel knew the Chess family as well. And I kind of wonder, I might have to talk to Marshall Chess about that. Maybe he can shed some light. But you know what? They're great. They're great recordings. They're special. They're one of a kind. They give a glimpse into what was happening in these earlier days before larger recording budgets and what was happening. So I hope people really enjoy them. We only made 2,000 on vinyl for the world. It's an RSD UK and European release, and it's being released domestically outside that. And I hope folks will check it out. I hope they'll like it.
Yeah. Terry Callier is one of these artists that I think it's time that the world comes back around to him. I mean, What Color Is Love? His work, especially as you mentioned on the Cadet label, pivotal. So these are records that people can find around, and when they do, grab them because they really are a great journey. All right, Roy Hargrove at Burn. Yeah.
Oh man, yes. From the night, yes, from the Bern Jazz Festival in 2000, we have the Roy Hargrove Quintet, one of his strongest groups, a group that I got to see, fortunately, many times, including at the Village Vanguard in New York. We're talking about Sherman, obviously, Roy Hargrove on trumpet, Sherman Irby on alto saxophone, the great Larry Willis on piano. And Roy loved Larry. Larry was the pianist on Right Now from Jackie McLean on Blue Note, and was a kind of a protege, if you will. I know he was deeply influenced by Herbie. Larry Willis was an important artist. And also Gerald Cannon on bass and Willie Jones III on drums. And this is a recording made when this band was white hot, just unbelievable. There's this connection with musicians sometimes on the bandstand, especially a working band that has hits night after night after night. Roy was such a serious musician. I really leap at the opportunity of putting out this project on my Time Traveler label because I'm a really big fan of Roy Hargrove. I even had a chance of being there on the sidelines and a little bit in the mix when I was doing sales and marketing at his record label at Polygram going back to 1994 when that was the first time I saw him. But Roy Hargrove matters. He has fans out there, and I just want to encourage folks to check out this release. It was mastered by Matthew Luthens with the audio and also for vinyl. It was pressed at Optimal in Germany. It has a beautiful insert with liner notes written by author and journalist Nate Chinen, and also incredible photographs. It also happens to be a hand-numbered limited edition. We only made 3,000 of them for the world. A lot of love went into it, but man, I think Willie Jones and Gerald were very pivotal in seeing this release come out because they had mentioned to Ida Hargrove numerous times, like, there was this performance that we did, and they knew about it. But man, a lot of us got a chance to really witness this, man. This captures a lot of that wonderful energy, a lot of that incredible passion and charisma that you would feel when you went to one of these shows. But man, what a tight ensemble, and they are burning, and it's just a joy. I love listening to it.
Burning and burn.
Yes, sir.
All right, there's 10. Let's go to number 11, which I was very happy to see. Buster Williams, Pinnacle, reissue. This was originally on Muse. Again, phenomenal bassist, guy who played with everyone. And here's an opportunity. Here's his debut where he spoke for himself. Tell us a little bit about this one.
I can't believe this record, first of all, is 51 years old. Amazing. And it really holds up so strong. Buster Williams, like you said, I mean, what is there to say? One of the greats. He's played with so many. He's had a lot of interest in his career, people realizing the greatness of all the different folks he's played with, whether it was Sarah Vaughan, whether it was Miles Davis. This is his debut recording again from Muse Records. At Time Traveler, we've been working with Craft Recordings to do an all analog reissue series, which is for the audiophiles. These are 180 gram pressings made at Optimal. They're mastered from the original tape reels that go right into the lacquer. It's AAA. I mean, we took the same care that Tone Poet, the OJCs, other similar series have done. And we also I wanted to build the experience. This comes in a Stoughton-hand tipped-on jacket, too. It just reeks Rolls-Royce quality. It's a great record, but I'm sorry. Should we talk about the musicians on it? First of all, I think I should do them. I'm a little remiss. Najee Allen Gums, obviously Buster Williams, and Billy Hart Jabuli on drums. And then you have these two guest soloists who need no introduction. I'm talking about the great Woody Shaw and Sonny Fortune. And I was in a record store in Annapolis, Maryland, about a month and a half ago, and on the wall was an original copy of this record going for $200. And ours is going to be a fraction of that. We're only making 2,000 for the world. But this is a beautiful a beautiful release. Liner notes, by the way, are penned by bassist and journalist Mike Flynn. But it's a it's a terrific release, and we got great sound out of it. I'm so proud about this series. A lot of people have been following it, and I felt that we should put one out for Record Store Day. This is going to be a series that's going to go on for several years, where we committed to doing a large number of titles. So for me, look, I just want to give birth to them. I want them to come out. I'm not looking to be crazy and overextend. We're making fixed amounts. And then, look, people will buy them or they won't. But this allows it to come out. But I really want to thank everyone at Craft and Concord have been so supportive and trusting in us. And I want to thank James Batsford, who's been an incredible co-producer working with me on this series. It's all analog, man. It's all about the music, and it's it's pretty great stuff.
Zev, this is an amazing batch. Buster Williams Pinnacle. Grab that if you see it on Record Store Day. An amazing set for Record Store Day. 11 records. I know you're going to try to top yourself at some point. What do you have in the hopper? What are you doing looking forward?
Well, I want people to be really surprised, so I'm going to contain it until it's time. I always love surprising people, and there's a lot of great stuff coming to be really happy about. Just hang on, I promise. We're fighting a good fight every day over here. But I want to say, for a lot of your listeners out there, I think will appreciate this. There is a brand new coffee table book that I'm co-authoring, and I wanted to tell people about it. It's called Love and Understanding, the Jazz Photography of Don Schlitten. I write a brief intro, and Ted Pankin writes the biography. This is going to be coming out on Fantagraphics Books. These are the people that do all the R. Crumb projects, okay? Really serious people. And I wanted to thank a guy in particular named Christian St. Clair, who is my co-author around also with Kyle Eagle on this book. This was Don Schlitten's last project he did before he passed away, just shy of his 94th birthday, about a month ago. And the book is available on Amazon for pre-order, anywhere you buy books. It's on the Fantagraphics website. But this book combines the photography. It has his favorite album covers, black and white, by the way, photos, color pictures. Over the last 7 years, I worked with him to digitize his complete archives, and I've been working with his family. I was working with him, and now I'm working with his daughter. But he was one of the most prolific people in the history of this music. He is one of the architects of jazz music, and you may not have known who Don Schlitten was, but you certainly know his work, whether that's Prestige Records, Muse Records, Xanadu, RCA, want to go back to Signal Records. He did incredible work. And he also had a whole genre, if you will, for album cover designs, a lot of typography, things that he pioneered. I take a look at these pictures and I say, that's a Don Schlitten. It's a masterpiece. But my boss, George Claben, was a recording engineer for him in the late 60s, working with artists such as Pucho and his Latin Soul Brothers, Dexter Gordon, James Moody. And in about 2009 or 10, on a first trip to New York, I pleaded, George, take me up to Kingsbridge. I want to meet this man, this Don Schlitten. And we became fast friends. And this was the last project that Don did before he died. He directed the whole thing. It's his last album cover. It's his swan song. So I want to say, for people that love jazz music, check this book out. I'm so proud. And it took a whole bunch of us and a lot of love. But every edit, every change, everything, it was the last. He made every tweak that he wanted it to be, just the way he wanted. And it was the last thing he did before he passed. And his work is going to live on. And this is something to be really excited about. So there's my spiel.
As if you don't have enough to do every day, Zev. That's this book sounds amazing. Okay, I'll get that link. I'll put the links in this episode page where people can check it out and hopefully put one on their own coffee table.
Very nice of you, sir. Oh my gosh.
All good. Again, Zev, you are living the dream life. Again, thanks so much for bringing these recordings to life, getting them out there. Again, also being quality control and kind of helping people kind of understand and put some perspective around this with the liner notes, the packaging, everything. It's always beautiful, and I always enjoy speaking with you, Zev, because I always learn so much. Again, everyone, Record Store Day is coming up. If you see some of these releases out there, grab them. Again, the Zev Feldman name is a stamp of quality, and I'm sure you're going to be taking them home and learning things as well. So again, Zev, thanks so much, and we look forward to seeing what you have in store for number 100 and beyond.
Thank you so much, Nate. Thanks so much.
What a lovely guy. I love having Zev on the show. He's so knowledgeable, always willing to share. Good man, that Zev Feldman. Again, grab those records on Record Store Day. I'm sure you'll enjoy all of them. And that's it for this episode of The Vinyl Guide. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks to everyone who's sharing these episodes on social media, putting them out on Facebook groups or Reddit threads or whatever you youngsters are using these days. And those of you who are leaving positive reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, well, that is for you right on your neck. Okay, put it right there. We'll be back shortly with a brand new episode. So until we talk next time, you all behave yourselves. And thanks again for listening to the Vinyl Guide podcast. Cheers.